Hey guys, Sebastian here again. So, as you guys saw in the thumbnail, I am breaking down the French defense. Now, without further ado, let's quit this dilly-dally and let's get into the opening video. Okay, now the French defense is after... Oh, I should move my mouse. Sorry. The French defense is after e4, you play e6, and we're only going to be looking at the main lines, which is after d4 and d5. Here we're going to be looking at first the exchange variation, which is e takes d5, e takes d5. Now after here we're going to be looking at the main line, which is bishop to d3. There's hair. Knight to c6, pawn to c3, pawn to d6, sorry, bishop to d6, knight to f3, knight to f6, short castles, and nowadays it's very trendy to put for black to put their knight onto a3, for white to put their knight onto a3, black to put their pawn onto h6, then b5, bishop to g4, and generally you get into a position like this, which is either a draw or winning. Generally you get something like b4 next. Computer argues for knight to e4 in this position, targeting the weakness on c3. Let's move on. Okay. Now after this, we're looking at the main line. Again, this pawn structure, you're going to get very used to this. And we're going to be looking at e5. Now here, you're just going to play c5. You're just going to lash out. You're going to play into the center. You're going to be playing more aggressive. What you want is for him to take, you to take, sorry, it's for them to take, you to take, and you get your bishop developed to c5. But after c5, you generally get the move c3. This is very normal. After c3, you're supposed to play knight to c6. After knight to c6, you get knight to f3. Here I recommend queen to b6, putting even more pressure onto the center. Here you might get bishop to d3. Here you play c takes d4. After c takes d4, you play bishop to d7, and here you are winning. And the reason for is because you're targeting this. From what it looks like to me, bishop to e3 looks best. The reason for this being, and for those of you wondering, why don't you just take, you're winning. No, you're not. You always have to watch out for these checks. Bishop to b5 check, and the queen's hanging after bishop to d7, something like this, and white's obviously winning. They are up the queen. Let's look at this variation. Okay, so after this, we get knight to c3. Sorry if you heard that, by the way. Oop, forgot about this again. God, I'm dumb. Knight to c3. After knight to c3, you're supposed to play knight to f6. After e5, which is known as a Steinitz variation, you play knight fd7. Here you get knight to f3 most commonly. You play c5, once again lashing out in the center. Bishop to e3 in this variation. Knight to c6, d takes c5, knight takes c5 is generally what's played, at least when I play this. You get bishop to e2, bishop to e7. I've seen bishop takes c5, bishop takes c5, trying to argue that, well, now I'm up the tempo, and then short castles. And here you are completely fine, unlike my mental health. For those of you who just got offended at that joke, I am very sorry. I do actually have, yeah, I don't have the best mental health. So you get e takes d5, e takes d5, and after this, you generally get bishop to g5. This is known as the Sveshnikov. Hold on. Sveshnikov? I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. There's some. Okay. Here you get bishop to e6, bishop to d3, c5. Once again, you're going to play this move. c5 is very commonly seen. Knight to f3, bishop to e7, short castles, short castles. Very normal position. So there are 2 lines for the classical, and let's get into the final position of this video. The position that's top line on Stockfish, the Tarrasch, with knight to d2. After knight to d2, we get d takes e4, sorry, not d takes e4, wrong opening. c5. That's embarrassing. c5. Knight gf3. Knight to f6. e5. Knight fd7. c3. Knight to c6. Bishop to e2. Bishop to e7. Short castles and short castles. Here, game plan generally still goes something like queen to b6. And that's mostly it. And yeah, that's the end of the video. Go do something productive with the rest of your day.